Happy New Year! Woo! Ladies and gentlemen, with the start of the new year for sports, it's time to make some resolutions. Maybe you resolve to watch more football instead of spending time with your kids. Perhaps you resolve to skip going to the gym every weekend for the next 5 months. Conceivably, you've decided to eat a diet of nothing but pizza every Thursday through Monday until Thanksgiving. Whatever your new sports year resolutions are, make sure you fail to live up to them in Good JuJu merch. If you don't believe our line of hats and tees are sure to look crisp with or without hot wing stains all over them, then head over to goodjujubets.net, click on the merch shop, and see for yourself. And remember, Good JuJu merch is always good juju for you.
We can't lose. No, we can't lose.
Enjoy it while it lasts. Gambling gods, fickle bunch.
Oh, yeah.
So easily
We
offended.
have a shooter and a good one coming out for a new point. Get your bets down, ladies and gentlemen. He's a rolling point is 9, place 9. 9 a winner. Got a hot hand. Place your bets, ladies and gentlemen.
They bet on absolutely anything. Don't make them prove it.
I was arrested 4 times connected to Blackjack, and one other time that was at a anti-war protest.
You're tuned in to Gambling with Good JuJu.
Welcome in, everybody, to Gambling with Good JuJu, where we're celebrating the return of ignoring television at night with our wives. You know, that's something the networks need to start considering. I don't need television now. We have sports.
Just stop airing
Like,
TV.
why air TV in the summer?
Right, like a normal person.
Right. That's when I have time to watch you.
Yeah.
So, where am I?
We talking broadcast TV here?
I'm talking any form of TV.
Yeah,
like I don't
Netflix.
like now, like, you know, you sit down with the wife
Yeah.
and there's football on. It's like, well, honey, you want to read? Right? But
Yeah.
you sit down in the middle of summer, it's like, well, what TV show you want to watch?
How much TV you want to watch tonight? 8 hours?
Right.
Let's do it.
Yeah, like we have 8 hours in our lives anymore. Hey, if you haven't already, head on over to your favorite podcast platform and show them you support us. If you're willing to leave a comment about how great we are, that would be neat too. And come hang out with us on the socials. We can be found on Twitter or Instagram at Good JuJu Bets.
Yeah, leave us a comment. Talk about how cool our show is about gambling.
Yeah.
And we'll send you some stickers.
Or literally talk to us about anything.
Or just say anything at us.
Yeah. If you,
That would be awesome too.
we mentioned Gino in one post, and a guy named Gino commented on us. That was good enough.
Yeah,
That's
Gino.
great. Gino!
We'll get
Gino
to that.
time.
We'll get to that
just do
soon.
Gino time. Right. All right, folks. We have an interview coming up here that we've been wanting to get into for a while. The grind of being a professional blackjack player, poker player, and now sports gambler. We're excited to welcome into the show tonight not only an AP Blackjack player, but former manager of the famed MIT Blackjack team. A man that has lived such an interesting life. We aren't even planning to dive into his professional poker career, which includes a World Series of Poker bracelet.
Boring.
Right. Today, we welcome onto the show lifelong professional gambler Andy Bloch. But that's not all.
But wait, there's more.
There's more. To have a little fun with us this week, talking week 1 of the NFL, we have a special guest joining us for the heat check. Our buddy Jeff, a.k.a. Thee Degen Boosts. So let's kick things off and get into this. It's time for the heat check.
Heat check.
Jeff, a.k.a. Thee Degen Boosts, thank you for joining the show for the heat check. We're really excited to get into this. Before we get started with Jeff, I need to set the stage for our weekend. Illinois wins.
Upset.
Bang.
The Bears win.
Shouldn't have.
Bang.
I went a perfect 10 for 10 in my college pick'ems pool.
Jesus.
We got all of our survivor entries through. You went 4-1 in millions.
Yes, thank you.
We both finished up both Saturday and Sunday in gambling.
And Monday.
Was this the best start to a season ever?
Yeesh.
For me. That's
Cool.
the best weekend to start an NFL. Is it not, Jeff?
You can't ask for much better than that.
For
That's
the
pretty
record,
nuts.
10 and 10. It's money line picks. You got to pick them on a scale of 1 to 10 in college football. Shout out to the cool sip of waters pool that I'm in. No one, I beat everybody by like 12 plus points or something. It was insane.
Hey, Jeff, you should ask him if he put $1 on that parlay of 10 for 10 for money lines.
Dude,
Did you?
all I did was look at them after that finished and said, oh my God, I'm now going to have to make a 10-leg parlay for every single college football pick'em slate that I do. Because that sucker would have hit at like an insane rate. I mean, I had 4+ money dogs that all hit on my pick'ems card.
Dude.
Yeah, that'd be big money.
Yeah.
Yeah, well.
Jeff, how was your weekend to start NFL?
Good. I can't say I was as crazy hot as you guys were, but I wasn't really betting a ton of spreads, more prop stuff. But I would say a great weekend. Survived survivors, so that's always good. 4-0 in fantasy, which is rare for me because I always feel like I get wrecked in fantasy the first weekend. And betting went really well. I had a huge bet on the 49ers last night, so that was good.
Do you in college or professional football care about any one team individually?
Only the Cleveland Browns, which is that was tough.
ouch.
But
All right, we'll stick
I grew
down.
up in Cleveland, so college I don't care so much about. Being honest, like I bet on it, but
All right.
Yeah.
So you don't get to join our fandom bandwagon necessarily after this weekend, but you had a good weekend gambling?
great weekend gambling. Yeah, the Browns were an absolute miserable. That was terrible. But
I mean-
great weekend gambling, and I'm pretty hyped about Survivor. So
Here's how unprepared I was for fantasy football. And one other thing to say on this. Jeff, congratulations on your fantasy football start. RJ
Thank
and
you.
I are in 3 leagues together. We win a combined 1 and 5.
Which one of us won one?
Well, okay, don't brag about it. It was you.
Was it me?
Yeah, you won one game by 1.5 points.
Oh, probably
Your-
the kicker.
Your one game you won by 1.5 points,
That's
and I
great.
win 0 and 3.
That's
So
fantastic.
congrats on the fantasy thing. It turns out with real gambling, you know what? I don't even care. I still had the best sports weekend ever.
Right.
I totally get that. Fantasy was like I was super into it really for I don't know, nearly a decade. And then once I got really into sports betting, I was like, this is kind of fun still, but money wise, it's almost a total waste of time compared to the ROI. Like once you start winning at sports betting and can churn every weekend. But last year I had a especially bad year in fantasy. I didn't make the playoffs in my dad's league, which is a bunch of like 50 plus dudes who care a lot but are terrible. And I didn't make the playoffs, and they know that I'm like big in gambling, so I have to try hard this year. I just can't let that happen again.
That's the worst. When your buddies are like, oh, you're a ringer. It's like, yeah, gambling. Like, I don't care about the
Right.
third string running back or the Jaguars.
It's gotten bad enough for me that I'm trying to make rule changes in all my leagues to make it less work.
Or we
I
could
get
just,
it, though.
we could just
I
stop
get it.
doing it.
Like it's the time investment. No, we can't stop doing it. It's the social aspect, folks.
The other
Do it
night,
for the social.
the other night, my wife asked, we're about to start the rookie draft, and she's like, "So are you prepared?" And I'm like, "Absolutely not." She goes, "How are you going to win?" I go, "I'm not going to win." She's like, "Why are you still doing this?" And I go, "I guess I'm socializing."
That's what I
You
keep
guys,
saying.
a dynasty league is definitely more work because you got to pay attention to all the rookies coming in the draft. And that's way more work than a redraft league. I'm actually not in any dynasty.
You should see what the free agency period is like in a dynasty.
It's
league.
so stressful.
It's a 2-week grind of a monotony.
You better have some vacation time.
Loved it.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Loved it before I had kids, Jeff. Now I'm just like, I don't know that I got time for this.
Shout out the Onions crew. This is
Yeah.
this is the most unique fantasy football league I've ever seen. We draft freshmen in college.
Yeah, we draft freshmen, and then if they make it to the NFL, you get first rights to them. So like homegrown, like they stole it from soccer.
It's crazy.
That is hardcore. I've never even heard of that.
Yeah.
But that would require an immense amount of work to succeed at.
Someday we'll break
See that being
down
stressful.
the nuances of this league because I've been in it since 2016, and I still need a refresher every year.
That's right.
It's ridiculous. So, all right.
Well, and you guys can't even cheat. You can't even cheat and just be like, all right, I'll just look at a couple fantasy lists because you're operating on a totally different playing field.
It doesn't matter. Like the free agency
Right.
period in this, you just hope it's like the real NFL where you're just hoping you can get guys.
Right.
Like you're
It
like
falls to me.
the Bears can't get a team if they want or a guy just because they want him, and you can't in this league either.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So it's cool stuff.
Great to see you.
All right. The reason we invited Jeff on this week specifically, first of all, week 1, we wanted to celebrate, have a little bit more fun, bring in an extra buddy. to celebrate with us.
Yeah.
But specific to Jeff, he is our Survivor trade partner, which is cool. Last year we did Survivor. We just had the one entry.
Yeah.
We thought we were going to do that again this year. And then we get a message from Thee Degen Boosts, and he's going, hey, you're out in Vegas.
Let's do this.
Let me get down on this. And we were happy to do it.
Absolutely.
And as a result of it, he got a little piece of ours and we got a little piece of his. So we've been chatting and communicating and kind of trying to strategize a little bit.
Yeah.
So let's start here. Jeff, is this your first time doing Survivor?
Yeah. First time doing Circus Survivor. I've done Survivor pools, but this is, by far the biggest money one.
Was there anything on Sunday you cared about, anything compared to your Survivor pick?
No.
And
absolutely not.
For the audience's reference, your Survivor pick was who?
Seattle Seahawks.
Same as us. That's right. We had 2 entries under the Gambling with Good JuJu name, and both of us said, forget it, we're taking Seahawks, and it came through. How nervous were you? Okay, let me ask it this way. First of all, Cincinnati game, did you follow it? Were you pretty pumped during that game?
So I didn't follow it at all. I knew once the Seahawks started that the Bengals had lost, but I didn't follow it all because I had stayed up like all night doing bets for NFL. I literally I don't think I went to bed till 4 a.m. and I knew I had to be up at 8:30ish to start my mega thread thing. So I got up early, grinded the mega thread, then 1 o'clock hit, and I had no plans on watching football. I napped for 2.5, 3 hours because I wanted to watch the Browns game. So I didn't track the Cincinnati game at all. Just saw that they had lost. I was like, oh my God. That's awesome. And I hope the Seahawks pull it out. And like I said, I didn't watch the Seahawks at all either because I don't have the stomach for it. So I watched the Browns and I just saw, I didn't look at a score once. I was like, oh, I hope they win.
Wow.
I find it ironic he didn't have the stomach to watch the Seahawks, so he watched the Browns.
Well, yeah, right. I didn't have money on that one.
Wait.
But
That's not even right. I won't even get it. It's okay. All right. We did our best.
So, Jeff, we watched the entire Bengals and Seahawks games.
We watched both of them. I mean, we hang out at his garage on Sundays for the Bears games. We got a few TVs going. We got the Bears, obviously. That's why we all get together to watch them. And then we stick around for the Seahawks game in the later slate.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this, Jeff, because this was a debate we had in the garage. Bengals win or Bengals lose. You know they've lost. Does that make you more or less nervous for the Seahawks game?
I would just say more excited. I was excited knowing that, at least 30% of the entries were gone. And now like the expected value of our tickets went up drastically. I was a little bit disappointed when I saw the final, whatever the entries in that, what was it, about 20% were on the Seahawks. I was hoping that it was a little bit lower than that. Maybe
it was
18%.
Almost 25, I think, by the time it was
almost.
Was it? Yeah.
When I saw the numbers, the first thing I thought was, oh crap,
yeah,
we should have gone.
Yeah.
We should have gone Saints, is what I thought.
And I was really never going to go the Saints. I know that obviously it would have been a great pick in hindsight, but I was like, I'm not fading a 7.5 point, a 6 point, and a 6 point favorite. Yeah. I would have gone the Bills. Would have been the other team that I went, and they won anyway. So, I guess it didn't really matter too much.
I think it still ultimately helped our long-term EV.
Yeah,
aren't the Saints still a stronger power-rated team than the Seahawks? I've looked at the schedule. There was nowhere else I was really excited to take the Seahawks.
Well, they get to play the Panthers again, right?
The Seahawks?
No,
the Saints
do.
Yeah, the Saints do. So.
Well, yeah, the Seahawks get the Patriots this week, so that would be one spot where maybe you take them, but not at home.
I actually got the numbers here. Seattle, initial projections from Survivor Atlas that he released based, I think they're his projections.
Yeah.
Seattle at 4%.
For week 2.
For week 2. The thing that I'll tell you about this week, it looks like it's going to be a lot more varied based on the initial counts.
Totally agree, because there's many 6 point favorites. So totally agree. There's like 7 at least 6 point favorites, I think, if I counted that right.
Wow.
So yeah, there's going to be a huge variation. The biggest favorites, the Ravens, are 9.5. Okay. But you got 49ers 6 point favorites, Chiefs 6 point favorites, Texans 7 point favorites, Eagles 6.5, Cowboys 6.5, Lions 7. So there's a ton of variation. I don't know who people are going to take this week.
Well, on my first pass, and I'm not afraid to give this out, it was Baltimore. on my first pass.
Wow.
Man.
Bold.
Well, it was a matter of
You mean when you put the whole map together?
when I did the whole map
Okay,
before week 1.
Yeah.
I locked in on Baltimore. There's a couple other spots for them where they certainly still are tasty, but week 2, I don't know what it was. I looked across all of them, and there was something that had me crossing out one thing or another on a lot of these teams.
Yeah.
I think a lot of these teams on the road that are favorites this week.
A decent amount of them are. At least some of them are. The other downside, some of the heavy favorites this week are also Thanksgiving teams.
Yeah.
Like the Chiefs, who are 6.5 or 7-point favorites. They're the Thanksgiving team. I know that there was another one. I'll have to glance real quick, but there's a few kind of negatives to some of the teams.
Sure.
Well, you were
Baltimore
talking
is the obvious one. I don't know that it's the right pick, but they're the heaviest favorite, and they don't play. Actually, they do play on Christmas, but they're versus Houston, so
Yeah.
can't imagine you'd be looking to hit that.
Did you play in the Survivor Atlas tool yourself before the season started?
The map?
Yeah.
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 Well,
There's
once I heard him on your guys' podcast, that's when I did it.
Oh, awesome.
There's another tool on there that you can go in and, like, if you get projections like these and if you see them from different people, you can go pop in the projections and then it'll tell you what the EV is to help you make that decision based on the best EV related to the win probability and the projections.
In the projection.
So that's
I'll have
pretty
to hop
cool
into
tool.
that because that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's huge.
The key is the projections have to be correct, though. Like, even last week, it's week 1. Week 1 has to be the hardest week to count projections on.
Sure, because
everyone's available.
Dude, the Bengals came down from like 10.5 to 7 and like all types of crazy stuff, right?
Yeah, there was a bunch of things going on.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just something to keep an eye on, man. Those projections, if we get the more data we get on those, that's going to be just absolutely killer. So,
And this week might be just as hard just because there's so many heavy favorites where a lot of people, it's just going to be, I don't know that there'll be one big consensus pick.
we've got,
I guess we'll see.
his projections, and I'll read these off for people. These come from Survivor Atlas. Baltimore comes in at 26% in his initial projections.
Tuesday night.
Yeah. So that's pretty high. Chargers, I almost called them the Clippers. The LA Chargers come in at 24%. So they're neck and neck.
Yeah.
It seems to be Baltimore and the Chargers coming in very popular. Who are the Chargers playing, Jeff?
The Panthers, so it makes sense.
Sure.
Oh, actually,
there you
Pinnacle doesn't have the line listed yet. That's why I didn't see that one.
Yeah.
Let me look at other books.
Well, they're playing Carolina. So there you go.
There you
that
go.
Makes sense.
Yeah, that explains it.
Houston at 9% on Sunday Night Football.
Facing the Bears. Not going to take them.
Yeah, I'm done. Not doing that. San Francisco, and also, you know what? Houston and we watched that Houston Indianapolis game.
Indy could have won.
I don't know. Neither team looked great. San Francisco comes in at 7%. Indianapolis at 6%. Philadelphia 5%. Detroit 5%. Pittsburgh 4%. As mentioned, Seattle 4%. Jacksonville 3%. And the Jets 2%. That's like
Jets,
half the team. How many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's 11 out of the 32
11.
teams getting at least 2%.
And in Taylor Mathis' pool, I took one, not one of these teams. The Cowboys.
You got time to make that change.
Oh, yeah. Well,
So the Cowboys,
Contrarian.
I mean, the Cowboys are looking like my favorite. They're playing the Giants at home on Thanksgiving.
oh, yeah.
So
For Circa, obviously.
for Circa,
I'm not even
Right,
considering
right,
the future
right.
in that other pool because who cares?
who cares? Those
And it's
are
not so challenging.
$35 entries.
And it's not so challenging because you don't have the 2 weird weeks.
Yeah, if you're thinking about the Thanksgiving matchups, there's really two like obvious heavy favorites on Thanksgiving. Dallas versus the Giants, like you said, and then the Chiefs will face the Raiders at home.
Oh, Jesus.
Are the
The
Giants,
next
are the Cowboys at home for that game?
Cowboys are at home
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
The next heaviest favorite, depending on how Chicago's season goes, Detroit will be at home versus Chicago on Thanksgiving. But, you know, maybe Chicago's way better by then. Who knows?
They didn't look great.
Right. But, you know, it's rookie quarterback first week. So
Right.
I'm not sure what to take away from that other than we're 2006 and we're going to the Super Bowl.
Right,
Our
yeah.
defense is awesome and our quarterback stinks.
Somebody said, what do you think? Oh, there's a Super Bowl. I want to know, but
Did you have any other Survivor entries, Jeff? Like any other teams you were on across any of your other pools or anything like that?
I'm in 2 other pools, super small money, and I planned on diversifying, and then I just took the Seahawks.
Oh man,
Seahawks
we
3
went
times.
straight
So.
across. We both went
Yeah.
Seahawks and Saints in our
Yeah, the other one.
2-entry pool that we did.
Shout out Taylor.
Well, that
Memphis.
worked out beautifully as well.
Yeah.
The Saints is great because I don't know how many other spots you'll feel confident taking the Saints. So nice to get that out of the way and get a win.
It'll be interesting to see them play a team not the Panthers and see how that shakes
Right.
out. Like, are the Panthers really just that bad? They might be.
I don't know, but you submitted the Cowboys this week and they're playing the Saints. You just said you submitted the Cowboys for Taylor.
Yeah, totally.
You just said, okay, all right, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that debate.
You
That's
want,
dumb.
me to change my survivor pick?
Can we all just remember, Jeff, we need to remember this. Next year, rookie quarterbacks, anyone starting week 1, we need to bet against them.
They're going to lose.
Even when Caleb Williams covered the spread, that's like the exception that proves the rule. We covered the spread, but he was not a spread covering quarterback that week.
Blocked punt, pick 6 by Will Levis at the end. Yeah. The rookie quarterbacks did not exactly show out.
Dude, they're
even
gonna
like
keep
Jaden
starting.
Daniels made some plays, but they got blown out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
fair point.
They're not ready. So we're betting against rookie quarterbacks week 1 of the NFL next year. Sound good?
I'll put it in my calendar.
You love a good system play. I'm trying to
Yes,
give
I
you a
do.
system play.
Thanks. Thanks. Bet against the day 1 quarterbacks. Wow. Sharp.
Jeff, was there anything interesting in your perspective from NFL week 1?
Maybe the most interesting thing was last night, Jordan Mason saying, I knew I was starting Friday.
Yeah.
And that is absolutely insane. And I got a lot of feedback on my post talking about, like, I cannot believe that just happened. And people saying either it wasn't a big deal or it could be easily explained. Those people are either not gamblers at all,
right,
or maybe bad gamblers that don't understand, like, having that information is worth tens of thousands, depending on your bankroll, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like, you could take Jordan Mason props at 11.5, sky up every single alt for 500 plus 1100 for his like 50-yard total, take his anytime TD, take his 2-time TD, and just absolutely print money. And that, as far as I'm aware, was common knowledge within the 49ers organization. So if you were a brother, an uncle, someone who heard that, absolutely massive. And there were people on Twitter who got it early, but that was mostly just from books moving a little bit slow in the news.
Yeah.
From what I saw.
So for the sport that supposedly got this right first, the injury report, right? They're going to be pissed off about this.
The NFL is going to be mad.
Yeah. They're not going to let this slide.
I'm pretty sure that the NFL's on your side here, Jeff.
Yeah. I haven't heard
the
anything
NFL
yet.
wants this to not be a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was shocked when I heard it. And this isn't even really me necessarily picking on the 49ers. I'm sure a lot of the teams do it. So I'm not like, oh, I hope the 49ers get fined or lose a draft pick or whatever. I'm just saying this has serious gambling ramifications. And even though CMC being out actually doesn't move the spread that much, just shows like how running backs don't matter that much.
Right.
He's like the best running back in the NFL, and the spread moved a full point and then back half a point. So it barely moved. But like, it matters massively for these player props.
Yeah.
So that was huge news and was apparently known by at least a decent amount of people for 3 or 4 days.
And real quick here, let me just bring the audience up to speed because we kind of talked through what's actually happening there. Jordan Mason was backup running back for the San Francisco 49ers. About an hour before game time, maybe 2 hours before game time, Christian McCaffrey gets announced as out. A lot of people, including our good friend Jolly St. Vic, had already bet a bunch of Jordan Mason overs, as you mentioned, for reasons that might have other to do. He's just high on the guy this year in general.
Yeah.
So then when Jordan Mason does start instead of Christian McCaffrey, all of his numbers hit. All of his rushing totals hit. All of his, he hit a touchdown.
Yeah, he had like 130 yards or something crazy.
He absolutely rolled.
Yeah.
And then in the post-game conference, he went on microphone and said to a reporter, yeah, I knew I was starting on Friday, which the NFL teams have to disclose this information in their injury reports if they know someone's not going to be playing.
Somebody's not going to play. Yeah. That's why we have the designations.
Yep. So the NFL is going to bring some heat for this one.
I'd be shocked if they don't. There's no way they don't. And, you know, from Jordan Mason's perspective, I have no problem what he did. He probably didn't even think of it. The reporter just asked him a question, when did you know you were starting? And he was like, Friday. Yeah. He didn't even think anything of it, but the coaches were, if you saw his next conference, he looked very upset, and it seemed like the coaches or somebody yelled at him for saying it.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, and he's going to be able to pass this away, don't you think? He's going to say, well, I knew just because I read the tea leaves in his body movements and stuff like that. So I knew.
I was the best running back on the team.
Right.
Yeah. Who knows?
Right. But massive gambling implications. I mean, people don't get like, it goes from a prop that has a 50% chance to hit about, Jordan Mason over 12.5 yards to something like 95%.
Right.
Where, I mean, you would literally bet everything you have if you're like serious gamble. I mean, just absolutely insane value there if you had that info.
Yeah, and then you just bet 365 it and tell everybody they're not going to get their money.
That's
another scandal.
Yeah, that's the other part of the story. Bet 365 going to everybody after Jordan Mason's announced as the starter and saying, "Oh, never mind, we had those lines wrong. We're refunding everyone who bet it before he got announced as a starter."
No, they changed the odds to minus 5,000.
Wait, they kept the bet and they just changed the odds?
Yeah, to minus 5,000.
Oh my goodness, that's even shadier.
Yeah,
somehow.
And then they've already apparently been sued for this in the United States. They're known for doing this overseas in Europe, and they were already sued for it. And then they realized, we might get sued again, so maybe we don't do this.
Yeah, losing bettors.
They clawed it back.
Yeah,
they clawed it back, but that was pretty unbelievable. I could be wrong. I don't think they even changed the odds pregame. I think it was during the game. Maybe it was pregame, but either way, it's totally insane. I mean, people who bet Jordan Mason hours ago got their odds changed to minus 5,000.
Yeah.
That's just totally wrong. I mean, there's no point in betting early ever then.
No.
Right.
Losing bettors, stay away from Bet 365.
Shout out Bet 365. Future sponsor of the show.
Winning bettors, go get them.
Go get them.
Go get them.
Going to Iowa tomorrow.
All right.
Yeah, go get them.
Before we let you go, Jeff, before we wrap things up here, week 2, Tuesday night, how many bets estimation do you think you already have on NFL?
Oh, good question.
2? Slightly over 100, not as many as you'd think yet.
What? Not as many as you think yet. Slightly over 100.
I bet like relatively high volume, not necessarily huge amounts on every bet.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Do you know your number from Sunday?
I don't. I have no clue. Very high. Very high. Actually, looking at just my Pickett alone, which of course doesn't track all of the apps that I'm on and in different offshores and stuff. What does it say? The money that you have outstanding.
Yeah.
It was bigger than any day before. So that was my biggest day ever. So it was kind of exciting. Good. And I'm not talking about profit. I had a good day. It wasn't my biggest profit day ever, but I'm talking money outstanding. I was like, I could lose a lot of money today. But it was so spread out. It wasn't going to be that bad.
We are so back.
What about you guys? How many do you think you have?
For Sunday?
Sunday, I got to 50. I mean,
I included Thursday in my count, by the way.
Oh.
He's talking about this week.
How many
bets do you have this weekend?
Right now?
Yeah.
For Sunday, I bet I don't have double digit.
I have 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's been a weird week, Jeff.
All good.
But
yeah,
I guarantee you I'll probably land somewhere around 50. That's my sweet spot.
I
don't have enough time to do all that, Jeff.
I haven't found my groove on the sides and totals yet.
That's not a thing to find groove on in the NFL.
Right. So I've got 3 bets in.
Oh, because props don't come out.
Because props aren't really liquid for a while. Yeah.
So what are yours? Are all sides and totals then right now you're betting on?
No. Some sides and totals, but they have other alt markets up and stuff like that, and like first half stuff. And I would argue most people betting NFL shouldn't really be betting sides and totals anyway. And everything I'm doing is just steam chasing. It's not like I'm originating or even trying to necessarily predict where Pinnacle, Circa, Bet Online, Bookmaker are going to move. I'm moving off of those and just betting them on DraftKings, FanDuel, BetMGM, Caesars when they're slow. That's all I'm doing. Yeah. So it's nothing super sophisticated, nothing really interesting. That's pretty much all I'm doing.
Heard it.
Okay. Before we sign off then, Survivor week 2.
Yeah, what are we thinking?
First thoughts. I want to hear all 3 of us. Jeff, do you have a first thought?
The first time I did the map, I had Baltimore. I think I'll almost definitely be not doing that because there's enough heavy favorites that I don't think it makes sense to take the one that is going to be by far the highest owned. So I think maybe Detroit makes some sense against Tampa Bay because some of the wrecks will be scared off because Baker and the Bucks just had a big week. But Detroit at home, They're a 6.5 point favorite. They're a 7 point favorite right now. So
Wow.
they're one of the biggest favorites, tied for the biggest favorite. And looking at the Lions, of course, the Lions are a good team, so you don't necessarily, I'm not dying to use them early, but that might be where I lean. And now I'm looking at their schedule and I might have to change it because they have Seattle in 2 weeks. They have Tennessee in 2 weeks or in 4 weeks at home. I'm going to have to look more.
I have Detroit somewhere else, but I don't know where.
Yeah.
That's an intriguing option.
They get to play a lot of bad teams.
What about you? What are your thoughts, Juice?
Well, like
Sorry to interrupt. As I'm looking more at this map, it's probably not going to be Detroit for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was my second pick, but now that I'm looking further,
So much
It's
value in
probably
the
not gonna
future. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
right now, we're feeling more uncertain this week by far than going into last week. There's just so many more options.
Yeah.
Okay. You got any first blush?
Nah, just not Houston.
I don't mean to be a coward here,
Yeah.
but I think I might need to be pushed off of Baltimore. I think I might be.
I love it.
I just, we sweated week 1. Might as well take a coast week 2. We're going to see what the EV is, Jeff. We're going to make the responsible decision just as you would preach. We're not going to go crazy and do something off the board.
Yep.
I respect that. The Eagles at home versus Atlanta versus Kirk Cousins who literally can't move right now and they have a good pass rush. That's pretty tempting as well.
Yeah.
Eagles were who I had in week 2, but I had to move off them because I needed the Eagles in another week. But we're going to redo this whole map every single week. So I'm excited to hopefully find a spot to be talked off of Baltimore. I think that's the goal for this week. We need to talk me off of Baltimore.
Yeah.
Sound good?
Yeah. I like the Eagles. I took them in the other one.
All right, Jeff, before we let you go, what are you touting right now? What are we're in the Juice Bets Discord with you. Is that what we're repping? Anything else you want to rep before we let you go for the audience?
I just say follow Thee Degen Boosts on Twitter. I post a mega thread every day breaking down the best sportsbook boosts and promotions, which ones to play, which ones to fade, and how to play the best ones. And then, I'm in the Juice Bets Discord too. We do really well in there. $50 a month. If you like making money, come join us. And my DMs are always open. I like answering gambling questions. So if you're curious about stuff, just hit me up.
Very cool.
And he does. I've hit him up probably one too many times so far, but he does respond very promptly and very politely. The other thing that I will say, the Juice Bets Discord, you're going to get his plays dropped a little earlier than they get on Twitter. So there's a benefit to doing that. And the Juice Bets prize picks service itself
pretty fire.
is absolutely fire. I mean, your prize picks account will run up if you do it.
Yeah.
So there's a little shout out for them. Jeff, thank you so much for taking the time with us. We're going to talk more throughout the football season with you. We're really excited to be trade partners with you. Best of luck to your bets. Good juju to everything this week. And we'll talk again soon. Okay, bud?
Thanks, guys.
All right, folks. This week we're talking with Andy Bloch. Andy was a member of the MIT Blackjack team in the 1990s. What is the MIT Blackjack team? Well, according to Wikipedia, it was a group of students at MIT that used card counting techniques and more sophisticated strategies to beat casinos at blackjack worldwide. It was around from 1979 to the beginning of the 20th century. What we'll learn from Andy is that maybe it's not just students. Right, Juice? Yeah. Foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Our guest, Andy, was a member of the team during the 1990s, even serving as its manager. In addition to his time on the MIT Blackjack team, Andy is probably best known for his professional poker career, which includes a World Series of Poker bracelet in 2012. That's a story best served for another day, however, Juice, as our goals for today are going to be to learn more about his time playing blackjack and to try to understand why he was at Bet Bash with us.
Well, I can't wait. I can't wait to get a firsthand account from somebody on the MIT Blackjack team. This is going to be fun.
I mean, even if it wasn't already on our goal list to learn more about blackjack, which we're going to get into a little bit with him, the overshadowing of that was, I just want to hear Andy's story.
Yeah.
In terms of the blackjack story.
Absolutely.
Just in terms of everything. The problem, it was too much. We couldn't cover his entire life in one interview if we wanted to.
Yeah.
So we're excited to get to it. We're going to be talking with him now. Next up is Andy Bloch. You can find him on Twitter at Andy_Bloch. That's Bloch with an H. Or on his website, andybloch.com. Enjoy the interview. We'll touch base after. Andy Bloch, welcome to the show. a member of the MIT Blackjack team and a World Series of Poker bracelet winner, now maybe a professional sports bettor as well. We're going to get into some of that information here in the course of this. But what we'd like to know to start this show off is, what do you consider yourself? Are you a professional poker player? Are you a professional gambler? What is your take on who you are professionally?
Well, right now I do a lot of different things. I do some sports betting analysis about halftime. I also write patents for people. I'm a patent attorney too.
Whoa.
And I do a lot of programming, both for my own stuff and for my work and for other people. And occasionally I get out to go play poker. During the World Series of Poker, I played a bunch of events, mostly the online events, and a handful of other events, including the main event. And occasionally I get out to play throughout the year, but mostly I kind of like focus on the World Series when I can. And I have a bunch of my own inventions that I've been working on. I have a patent on levitating particles in a fluid, and I'm working on an ice cream machine and a bunch of things like that. So
Okay.
there's
So
a lot of things in there. But I don't, my tax accountant won't let me say that I'm a professional poker player anymore because I don't really spend enough time focused on that.
but you did spend a portion of your life putting on your tax return that you were a professional poker
Yes,
player.
there was at least about 10, 20 years where that's what I put on my tax return since the early mid 90s until probably 2011 or so. So like 15 years or so, maybe more.
So we need to get an understanding of how it is you can create patents for the things I can't even repeat because I don't understand them. Be an attorney, be a professional poker player, along with the various other things that you mentioned. So let's start here. Can you explain, going back, childhood, wherever you want to start, where gambling came into your life?
Yeah, I always loved playing games, playing card games. I just would invent card games by myself when I was like 5, 6. And growing up, I grew up in Connecticut. And there's, at the time, there was basically one form of legal gambling. It's a game called Highlight, which some sports bettors might have heard about. Pretty much, it's kind of like horse racing, but you're betting on people with these big baskets on their hand, throwing a ball against the wall. And in high school, I tried to write some programs to analyze the game and beat it. And I gave up because I really wasn't like old enough to actually go to the fronton and like record all the points and stuff. And later on, I found out like there was a few years after that, there was a professor in New York State. He wrote a book about like how to beat highlight. And my biggest problem was the internet really didn't exist at the time, so I couldn't get the data that I wanted out to like use that. But I mean, it was a good introduction. I did a lot of the same things, approached it in mostly the same way that he did. And then in college, I played a lot of poker, mostly like nickel dime quarters for winning laundry money. And I knew about the MIT Blackjack team. It was like sort of rumors around it, surrounding like, oh, there's this mythical blackjack team that goes to the casinos and wins money. And at one point in the school newspaper, there was a story about a janitor that had found like $100,000 or $200,000 in cash in a classroom. And people were like trying to wonder, there's like, well, was it drug money? And then somebody else was like, oh no, it's probably the MIT Blackjack team money that they found. And I found out later on that, yeah, that was the MIT Blackjack team's money. One of the managers of the team had a bag. We would go on trips and you'd come back with your money and then you'd give it to like the manager. And he just like left it in a bag in the classroom.
Did he get it back?
Yeah, they had to hire some lawyers to get it back. Someone knew, I think Alan Dershowitz at the time, and then he suggested somebody else, Harvey Silverglade and Good, who ended up representing me later on in a criminal case about the MIT. One of the times I got arrested playing blackjack, but. Yeah, so we always knew about the MIT Blackjack team, and then a couple years out of college, I was looking for like a hobby. I kind of got fired from my job, and then I decided to pick up a hobby, and it was either poker. I was thinking about poker or chess, but there's really no money in chess unless you're like the top. And I didn't want to study like openings, and that's sounds like too much work. But poker seemed beatable, so I started to go to Foxwoods Casino that had opened up a few years before, and they had this game called Hickok 6-card poker that one of the vice presidents or executives there had invented. And I don't know why exactly, but it looked like I could beat this game somehow. And
So can you explain this game? What is this game?
Yeah, it's like 3-card poker, kind of, or any of the Caribbean stud kind of those kind of poker game where you play against a casino at like a blackjack style table. And this particular game had a couple of decision points, and all those decision points like help you get an advantage. And they dealt it face up, and it was dealt like 6 or 7 people at the table. So you could use the information about all the cards and the dealer's cards to figure out, like, it was poker in that you could fold and get half your bet back. You could double your bet, and then you can buy a 6th card. So there was multiple decision points. And I guess the game wasn't popular enough, and they changed the rules and made it actually so it was positive for the player off the top by like 2%.
Whoa.
Wow.
That's big for a game, but unfortunately it was a $50 max bet.
Oh.
And it was really slow. So you can make $1 per hand, and maybe they'd get like 15 hands an hour. And no, probably less than that, because the dealers were like pretty bad. So you can make maybe $10, $15 an hour.
Sounds like a job.
Yes. But I went and I was like, okay, I got to analyze this, figure out like how to make a counting system using the up card so that you could play almost perfectly. And I did that, and my strategy had about a 6% edge.
Oh wow!
Oh wow!
So now we're talking about, well, now we can make some more money. Maybe you can make $50 an hour. And I was thinking like, well, I can't really make too much myself. I can go there and live at the casino and make like $30 an hour, $50 an hour if I'm lucky. But I need to like find the MIT Blackjack team.
Yeah.
So wait, so hold on real quick here. Real quick. You went to MIT?
So I went to MIT as an undergrad.
And you were not on the MIT Blackjack team as an undergraduate.
So most people aren't, because you have to be 21 to play blackjack.
Sure.
But there are people, like actually a bunch of people who like took like 8 years to graduate. And so like technically they were undergraduates, but they weren't really, you shouldn't have been undergraduates. So
Gotcha.
We had a few people that didn't ever go to MIT that were just were friends of other people or relatives, or just like good blackjack players. But we actually like practiced on campus. We recruited on campus. Sometimes we would put out flyers and say, hey, we're going to have this like little blackjack seminar thing in this January period. Come and learn blackjack and learn about the MIT team. And then we would recruit like the best players onto our team. But
so how did you get on the team then?
How did I get on the team? I was looking for the team, and I was also playing in this home game in the Boston area. And I went to Foxwoods and played this like $100 buy-in no limit hold'em tournament. I think it's the first time I played no limit, and I ended up winning it. And then so now the people at the home game thought I was really good, and a guy joined the game named JP, and I guess he thought I was a good poker player, and he approached me and he said, "Hey, I used to run the MIT Blackjack team. I want to start a poker team." And it was going to be a poker team where we would train a bunch of MIT students to play like a 10-20 stud, or like 10-20, 5-10 limit hold'em. No team play. Like we would just train you, and you would play on the shared bankroll on different tables. And I said, okay, that sounds interesting. Oh, by the way, I have this other game I figured out how to beat. Like, and we should like do this too. And I showed him my work and stuff, and he's like, and then his partner was Semyon Dukac, who's the second book that Ben Mesrick wrote. Ben Mesrick wrote the book Bring Down the House, and he also wrote a book Busting Vegas, and that was focused on Semyon Dukac. So it was Semyon, JP, and me started this MIT poker team, but it ended up being an MIT Hickok 6-card team. We won like $75,000 playing Hickok 6-card poker, and I think I was the only one to win on the poker side. With a ridiculous win rate at like 5-10 limit Omaha, but I must have gotten pretty lucky. But
so was poker always like your primary love out of all the things you've done gambling related?
Poker is a tough game. to do as for a living because you really never really know if you have an edge. Like blackjack, you know what the casino strategy is. Like they can't deviate from it. And as long as you're not getting cheated and you can practice and you can test yourself and you can deal to each other and, you can have strict checkouts and know that, okay, we've got a 1% edge in this game or 2% edge. Our hourly rate is $500 if the way you play or something like that. In poker, you don't really know, right? You don't know how your opponents are playing. Except for heads up, there really is no actual optimal strategy, even though people now talk about GTO, game theory optimal, which is kind of like a made-up term by poker players. And it doesn't really apply. There's no theoretical optimal strategy once you get more than two players.
Okay.
Right? There's also, you have to worry about collusion. You have to worry about cheating. So there's a lot of aspects of poker that make it a kind of a more interesting game than blackjack, but also a harder game to really master over the long term. And whereas, like, I feel like if I had an opportunity where I wouldn't get kicked out of a casino playing blackjack, it would probably take me like a day to, practice, make sure I'm like not giving away too much equity for blackjack. But for like poker, if you've been out of it for a while, or if you go and like try to sit down in a new game or at a table where you don't know any of the players, if they're all great players and they're playing a different strategy than you're used to, you could be the best player in the world, you won't have an edge, and you could be losing. So you have to continuously adapt for poker. And having been out of it for the most part for the last 10 years or so of the like daily grind in the poker, it's I think if I wanted to go play regularly, I think I'd want to like sit down and study with some of the newer poker tools or create my own.
Oh, okay. Well, that's just an easy option.
Really taking the shortcuts here, Andy.
All right. I love the response. I'm gonna bring us back to the MIT Blackjack team. So you get introduced to this individual who's associated with the team, and you guys start talking about a poker team and joining up with the MIT team to do stuff, or are you not dealing with MIT yet?
We do the poker team, and they both were on the MIT Blackjack team. But at first, we weren't connected with it directly.
Okay.
Then Foxwoods changed the rules of the game. They made it like basically unbeatable. They never kicked us out. They didn't even like revoke our comps or anything. So we got like tons of comps. People were like literally living there. I had a regular job at the time, and then once they changed the game, we couldn't play anymore. We couldn't play profitably anymore, and so they recruited most of us to the MIT Blackjack team, which was still going on. And I joined about the same time that Jeff Ma, who was the main character of the book that 21 was based on, loosely based on, and played a bunch. After like a couple of months, the team split up into two different teams. We called ourselves the Amphibians, and we called the other team the Reptiles. And there was probably like dozens of people on each of the teams. Well, maybe like a dozen on the team and a dozen on the other team in the beginning. But then like people would drift away or quit, and then we'd have to recruit other people and train them. And it was very profitable. We would make like 6 figures a year, double our bankroll or more. Wow. And for those of us that like reinvested our earnings, like even if you were a player and you didn't invest much in the beginning, if you were smart and you didn't have need to live off the money, if you reinvested it, you did really well. And there were some people that they just took their player share and then mostly pocketed it and had really small investments, and they still did pretty well, but they didn't have the 6-figure income from it.
So take me back. You guys are one MIT Blackjack team, and you split off into 2 groups called the Amphibians and the Reptiles. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Can you talk about what caused the split?
Yeah, I was pretty new with the team at the time, but I think there were just some personality differences. Also, the team was getting kind of big and wasn't able to like get down all the action that they would have liked. So, you were limited by the bets, and some of the new players and the new investors didn't feel like they had enough of a share of the team, I think. But it was mostly that, and mostly like Semyon and a few other people, they just wanted to like, it was more of they just like wanted to play with the people that they got along with better. And to play in a smaller team where they had more of a control and I think both teams did pretty well after that.
Gotcha.
And what we did, that was like 94, 93, 94 or so. And then in 2000, we all thought like, hey, it'd be really cool to get back together for New Year's Eve 2000.
Yeah.
Figured like there'd be a faction in
Y2K,
Vegas.
the Y2K one.
Y2K.
Okay.
Who knows? And then, so we formed like a joint bank for Y2K and January, including Super Bowl weekend. The Super Bowl was always a big weekend for us in Vegas. And because there's always a lot of action, a lot of big bettors come in, and the casinos don't look twice at somebody. Like we would, if we came on a normal weekend, we'd stick out with how much we're betting. But come in on like a New Year's or Super Bowl, you blend in much better. And the casinos are much more likely to like let you get away with it because they're really interested in making the money on like the people that are betting twice or 5 times as much as you. Yeah, we can bet 5, 10K maximum a hand, but like they have people that are just flat betting that much or more, and they don't want to necessarily cause a scene or back off or 86 those players.
So you guys came back specifically to take advantage of big money events so that you can hide your play.
Yeah. So in between like those big weekends, we would travel around the U.S. and also around the world. We had like a trip to Europe early on in the amphibians team. And that was pretty profitable, but we did get kicked out of like multiple countries. Well, Monaco was one of the countries we actually got kicked out of.
Oh, wow.
So there are countries you're not allowed to go to because of your gambling?
They did say after they arrested us and kicked us out that like we should let them know if we ever want to come back to Monaco again.
I hear it's a beautiful country.
So I did go back years later, a couple of times, but once for a poker tournament. And Matt Savage was the tournament director, and he told me like, "Hey, the tournament people, they just came up to me and they said you have a cheater in your tournament." And he's like, "Well, who?" "Oh, Andy Bloch." And he's like, "Oh, I know Andy. Don't worry, he's not a cheater. I don't consider blackjack card counting cheating, and it's fine with me if he plays." And they're like, "Oh, we just want to let you know. It's up to you, but he's not allowed in the casino. He only can play poker."
Oh my gosh!
And then they were there was a cocktail party, I think, just before, and I got to meet those guys. And then like they were like, "Hey," one of them was like, "Oh, maybe he can play roulette," and the other one's like, "Not even American roulette." Like, I don't know if you guys know, but European roulette is like a quarter the advantage of American. They have a single zero and you get half your money back on if it comes up. Yeah, so they wouldn't let me play anything there except for poker, which was fun. They were fairly polite. Not really the first time I was there when they arrested us.
Yeah.
That's another cause we need to take up. The return of the single zero roulette wheel.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, right.
Hey, I was at Bellagio with a friend after eating dinner, and they had 3 roulette tables in a row, a single zero, a double single zero, which they have like they're broadcasting. They have cameras on it, and you can bet online on it. A single zero,
wow.
A double zero, and a triple zero wheel.
Yeah.
All next to each other. The single zero was empty.
Of course.
People are literally betting on something that's like 3 times or 6 times as bad.
More options to win.
Wait, were the limits different?
Not enough to matter.
Yeah.
Like if the single zero is $50 and the triple zero is $25, you're better off playing the single zero. Sure. And they're betting multiple bets and stuff. Like just pile it all on one if the limit's a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you're full of tourists, they're gonna
right.
go wherever they can do it.
Or the least.
Yeah, I know how they act.
Get those drink comps.
Right.
It's like people that think 6 to 5 blackjack is a good deal.
Yeah, of course.
Casinos will advertise 6 to 5, like because people are bad at math and they think it's better than 3 to 2.
It's more numbers.
It's a bigger number.
Bigger numbers. There you go, Andy.
Like I think it should be illegal to like call 6 to 5 blackjack. Like should be called.
We had Vegas Pauly C on. He's a social media influencer for gambling related casino content. And he said he was trying to work out a deal with cruise ships to
Yeah.
go and tout their casino offerings, and not one of them offered 3-2 blackjack, so we refused to do it.
That's good.
All right. Help us understand the nuts and bolts and like what the various team members do and why you would want a team instead of just to go play blackjack by yourself.
There's like three big reasons for a team. Okay, the first one is you can pool your money and then everybody can afford to bet more. So that's one of the biggest reasons. It's like now you like, let's say I can only afford to bet like $25 a hand, or we had something called a unit, which was what you would bet based on the true count, and you'd multiply it by the true count, etc., which I could go into detail or not. But let's say you can only bet $25. Well, four of us pool our bankroll. They can only bet 25. Now we can all bet $100 and have the same individual risk. So basically, we all bet 4 times as much. We can all make 4 times as much money, each of us. The team itself will make 16 times as much, but we divide by 4, it's 4 times as much. So that's a huge reason. Everybody can bet more.
Got it.
Okay.
The second thing is it helps you get better and practice and train, and helps you out. Like when you're on a trip, you don't really want to be going on a trip alone. It's much more fun, and it's you're gonna do a better job if you have other people there to like commiserate. You also can get in the long run faster, so you're gonna play 4 times as many hands. Not only you're gonna be way more likely to be positive at the end of the year or even at the end of a trip. If you're playing 4 times as many hands, but you have 4 players instead of just 1 player, right? You're going to get the long run twice as fast, right? 4 times as fast, but you're going to cut the variance, the standard deviation in 2. But because the standard deviation is the square root of the variance,
And all this gets split evenly at the end of the trip, no matter what individual participants are doing during it.
Well, we had a complicated formula like how we would split up the profits. For MIT students, it wasn't a very complicated formula, but like compared to other people, we didn't split it up equally. We tried to make it as fair as possible that in the long run, it would be roughly 50-50 investors and players. And we encourage everybody to do both, like be investors and players. Like we wanted the players to reinvest and the investors to play as well. And we would take fairly meticulous records of every time, like we sat down at a table, what the count was, how many other people, how many decks were in play, what our min and max bet would have been. You know, when we left the table, whether we were able to play an couple extra hands, when the cut card came out, etc. We had like all these things. And you wouldn't write it down every time you sat at the table. You would take a break after every few shoes and you go to the bathroom and write it down in a notebook or whatever. And yeah, it sounds more complicated than it is, and then we would go and we'd simulate that and calculate, our expectation and the variance, and you'd report that, and we track that. We'd form banks, and people invest money, and then we say, okay, our win goal is X. Like we might put in 400,000. I think our first bank as amphibians was 400,000, and our win goal was 100,000. Okay. So once we hit the win goal, then we would split up the money based on how much people played and the investor share, and
What's your expected time frame to hit that win goal?
We usually tried to do it with like 3 to 6 months. Yeah, but there were some occasionally it would take longer, and sometimes we'd break the bank in like a weekend or 2.
Yeah.
So like when Sun opened up, we crushed them like the first week basically and broke the bank right away. It was like pretty profitable weekend for us. And then the next weekend we all got kicked out.
So did you guys as an MIT Blackjack team travel around the country and around the world doing these trips?
Yeah.
And would you go somewhere different every time, or how does that work?
Yeah. So like I said, we would play in Vegas when it was the big weekends, because that's where we knew we could get big action. But the people in the Vegas otherwise are pretty sharp, or they have been. Like they have years of experience dealing with card counters, and it wasn't a good place to go a normal weekend. But this was around the time when casinos were opening up around the U.S. And we would, when a new jurisdiction, a new state opened up a casino, we would go and try hit them opening weekend, or during the first few months, or just repeatedly go back to them. And that was usually like the best. That was like the best strategy, the best time to go and play, because they're focused in on like not getting cheated by people that are like changing their bets and stealing chips and stuff like that. So the focus on opening day wasn't necessarily like, okay, we got to stop these guys that are going to make 1% to 2% of their bets against us. They want to stop the people that are going to make like 100% because they're just literally cheating.
Actually cheating.
Yeah.
So was
And
that
also-
that was your primary strategy, was to chase grand openings of casinos around the country?
That's awesome.
That was one of our strategies. Yeah, we also went to Europe. We decided like, hey, let's go out to let's plan a trip to go to Europe and go to different casinos there, and then see if there's something that we might want to do more trips of. And that was profitable, not as much as we hoped, and we all got kind of kicked out. The three of us. It was me, Semyon, and a woman named Katie, and we flew to London. This was the time you actually had to sign up to go into a casino. So one of us had to sign in, like give them our passport or whatever, to register at each casino.
Wow.
And then you didn't get approved right away. You had to like wait. So we did that. We signed up at these casinos. Then we went and played in Europe. And the first place we stopped in Amsterdam and then went to Monte Carlo. So that was like the first place we went. We went to Nice. We stayed in Nice. We had we rented like a couple of rooms in somebody's house, kind of like this was before Airbnb. But that was people would come up to you at the train station or whatever, and they would offer you like to rent their place. I don't remember but I think the first time we just took the train in just to check it out, and then we came back, and then we drove in and we played there. And we were doing a couple things. We weren't just counting cards. We were also, I think it was 4 decks they dealt at the time, and they didn't have a cut card, a second cut card that would hide the bottom card so you could see it, and they would let the players cut. And then they also had a really weak shuffle that you could track too. So we were doing like 3 or actually maybe 4 different things, tracking aces too. But
Are they weaker over in Europe than they are here in America?
at that time, they were weaker there.
Okay.
There was another guy that we saw that was kind of doing some of the same things we were doing on his own that we met there, and like we all like recognized that that's what he was doing. And Katie ended up keeping in touch with him over the years.
So how many countries on this first trip, when you start off in Amsterdam and go to Monte Carlo, how many places are you hitting in that one trip?
Yeah. We played in Monte Carlo, tried to play in Nice, I think, after that, but we think like Monte Carlo called them up or something. And like they basically weren't going to let us play, and we realized that. So we went to the Cannes Film Festival and instead, basically. But then we went to Barcelona, played there. We spent like almost a week there. That was fun, and it was pretty profitable, but like they didn't have very high limits. So and then we went to out near Paris. There was a casino out there. They were probably like the sharpest, I guess. They did comp us a really nice meal though, so that was good with some nice French food. And then we went back to London, and we did pretty well there. It was very interesting there in London is that they're very super polite when they, all except for one casino was pretty super polite when they kicked you out. Like they would wait until whoever was the member was sitting alone at the table, and they would come up to them and they would be like, "Hey, you're too good for us. Feel free to go like have a little bit to eat from the buffet, but you can't play any more blackjack." And
yeah.
And then there was like one casino I think that wasn't that friendly, but basically we knew there like as soon as we started to play there was a clock that was kind of ticking, and we'd be able to play like a couple of hours and then they kick us out. So,
yeah. So here in the States we have like the Griffin book, right? Do you,
I don't know if we still have the Griffin book, but
do you suspect they had that over there too, or something?
Oh, I don't. We don't just suspect it. Okay. So
yeah. Okay.
Let me go back to Monte Carlo. Okay, because that was our first stop, and so we're playing, we're counting, we're winning. At some point, Katie gets up to go to the bathroom or something, take a break, and we see as she's walking back to the table that they stop her and they ask her for her like passport or whatever, and they take her to the back room. And if we were in the U.S., we might have just like me and somebody might have just like taken off, but we're in a foreign country. They have her. We're not leaving her alone. So we finished playing the shoe. They're standing behind us. They're just waiting. I don't know why they might not have let us finish playing the shoe. I don't remember, but we tried to anyway. And they take us to the back room. She's already in there. To get there, there's like this wall of glass, and there's a secret door that opens up that goes to the back. back rooms. And we go in there, and she's in the back room, and it's just a small office, and the three of us are sitting like in one side, kind of in the corner, and there's a camera on the opposite corner, and they're like, "Okay, get a little bit closer together," and they're taking they're like, "Family portrait," and they get up on the phone. They get on the phone and they're calling they're speaking French, and which I don't really understand. They were like blah 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 Griffin Investigations, Las Vegas, Nevada, and so they're calling Griffin. Semyon was already in the Griffin book, and I don't think I was in it yet, but I might have been in some alert. And I don't think Katie had been in it yet. But yeah, they held us there, called the police on us. I didn't know like whether they want to make examples of us, whether we're going to get paid or what was going to happen. And I'm in my 20s when this is happening. So, this is like, oh, this is fun, but like, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
Right?
That's
Beat us
scary.
up. They're going to steal our money. It's Monaco. Like, I don't think they want like an international incident, but still. Anyway, the first indication I had that things are going to be okay is the casino was like, okay, the police, the inspector, the detective, they call him inspector, comes in and they're like, okay, who has the chips? And I had most of the chips. And they're like, okay, you guys, both you and Katie, give them the chips and cash them out. So like, okay, I went up, they cashed us out. I mean, we won, I don't know, like $30,000 US or something. I mean, a decent amount, nothing, not like, yeah, we would have been happy if we won that for the trip, but it's a long trip and it like split amongst all the team members and everything. It wasn't like going to be so profitable that we're going to want to come back every week.
Right.
But it was pretty good and for one night. And so they cashed us out. And then sometime later, they're ready to bring us to the police station. And this is the just before the Monaco Grand Prix. And the roads were all set up for the Grand Prix. And we get out there and there's police officers lining the entire entrance to the casino and outside of the casino and like in front of the Grand Casino and all that for the three of us.
Wow.
Like they had like 20, 30 cops, like multiple police cars. We're prisoner transport for me and Semyon and Katie. They had in a different vehicle. Drove us along the racetrack of the Grand Prix to the police station, and then interrogated us. And one point that I was a little bit nervous is they want to know how we got there, and we're like, oh, we rented a car, and they're like, where is it? Oh, it's in the garage. We're like, okay, take us to it. One of you take us to it. We need to drive it back. And when we get there, and the guy is searching and pulling up the trunk and stuff, and I'm getting a little bit nervous. And I'm like, if we pass this test, if they don't find anything in there, find in quotes anything in there, I think we're okay. If this was their opportunity to really screw with us, right. Oh, look what we found here,
Right.
Yeah, drug smugglers.
Like, I don't know. We rented the car in Amsterdam, so like, who knows what the last person?
Right, exactly. Yeah. Wow, that's a crazy story.
They start ripping up a car sourcing to Amsterdam. You don't know what you're going to get.
Exactly.
In that car.
Who knows?
It wasn't his. It wasn't his. You have plausible deniability in that situation, Andy. So what happens? You're in jail. Like what ends up happening to you?
Well, they interview us, interrogate us each individually, go through our wallets and stuff, and then they had us send us back to this little cell. It's like 6 foot or something with like benches. It didn't have bars on it; just had a door that closed, and we're just sitting in there. And eventually, like a couple hours go by, and we're like, "Did they forget about us?" We had to like flag them down and be like, "Hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
You guys, can we leave?" And then they're like, "Oh, you guys are still here."
Wait, they just let you leave?
No, they didn't just let us leave, but they like forgot about us.
Yeah.
Like maybe they had a shift change or something. I don't know what happened, or they were just like one of the something. Like I don't know what. But anyway, they're like, okay, let's check. And then they double check that it's okay for us to leave. We get a police escort to the border. They're like, don't come back. If you ever want to come back, you should like let us know before you do. Check with us or something. I didn't check with them before I came back, and
so how'd they know you were going to Nice? Like, how'd they know? You said that they alerted your next destination.
We don't really know for sure, but it really seemed like when we went to at this casino at the time, you had to like present like your passport or ID when you check in, and then they were pretending like their computer was down or there's some computer problem. So we just think like they communicate. Casinos communicate with each other. I don't think they were like owned or operated by the same people, but they probably have a system set up where like if a card counter is caught at one casino in Monte Carlo, alert the Nice casinos because it's so close. They figure like, and vice versa.
Right.
And that's not the time. That was the first time probably it happened for me, but definitely wasn't the last time. Like Niagara Falls, I think the casino was actually alerted the border patrol of in Canada that we were like crossing the border, and I think they also alerted the U.S. side. We almost got arrested. Well, I got arrested in Niagara Falls, but was very close to I think getting arrested on the way back into the U.S.
Jesus.
And how many years did you say you were on the MIT Blackjack team?
It's about like 7 years or so.
So
And,
over those 7 years, how many trips do you estimate you made to play blackjack? Like how often? Like how many are you making to do this?
Well, I don't really remember. So like the last 3 of those years, I was at law school. So I didn't go. I made a few trips over the summer. But I didn't make a lot. I made a couple of trips during the year. Not too many, but other people did. So I don't know, 50 trips, probably more. I don't know, probably around that. Maybe more.
Wow.
Maybe less.
It's a good life.
I don't know. I could probably go
Sounds
back.
stressful.
I think I still have some electronic versions of some of the records when I was keeping the records and kind of running the team. But
Yeah.
Was that the only time you were arrested over those 7 years, or are there other?
I got arrested. I was arrested 4 times connected to blackjack, and one other time that was at a anti-war protest. But
Wow.
All right.
so I know what it's like to be arrested, but no. Well, I got convicted once, but I got that overturned on appeal. So
Oh, fantastic.
Was that after you were a lawyer or before?
yeah, that was after I was a lawyer.
Did you represent yourself?
Yeah, I did. I was in D.C. at the anti-war protest, and
Got
it wasn't even a misdemeanor. It was like a it was like a violation. It was criminal, but it was like, I don't know, 30 people. And I think like 20 of us went to trial or something. And we each got like a $50 fine. But I decided to challenge it. Spent like hundreds of dollars getting on discovery, getting the transcript and everything. And then, I appealed it to the DC Court of Appeals, which is the equivalent of a state Supreme Court in DC. They don't have, they only have 2 levels of court. So, and I won my case. I had a little help from the ACLU. They actually took an interest in that one. I thought about calling them for some of my other cases, but I didn't end up actually challenging them. Well, then there was the Golden Nugget Las Vegas case, and they decided to just drop the charges eventually for trespassing.
Oh, sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Trespassing.
Can we ask you, have you ever attended the blackjack ball?
Yes. I've been there almost every year since the, I don't know, late 90s. I don't know if you guys talked about it.
No.
You guys know,
We kind of just figured out what this was or heard about it. If you could give us like a quick rundown of like what it is.
Yeah. Max Rubin, who is, in the blackjack business, decided like 30 something years ago to have a little party basically at his house and invite all the professional blackjack players he knew, the top ones, and he'd have a little contest about some questions and then some blackjack skills to crown who the best blackjack player was. And he did it every year, and it just grew and grew and grew. And the first year that I went, it was probably like, I don't know, it wasn't the first year it happened, maybe the 5th year. It was in his basement and his kitchen. And then eventually it outgrew his house, and he moved, and it ended up being at his condo association common room area. And so then that grew, and now it's grew to a 501c3, and we have a big event every year. And the last couple of years, it's been at the Lou Ruvo Brain Center on downtown Las Vegas. It's this really crazy looking wavy building that you might have seen if you ever drive to downtown or on the highway. You might see it from there.
Yeah, I know what he's talking about.
Yeah, totally know what you're talking about.
So it's so now it's like a legitimate charity. So it raises some money for charities, and it's also to me, I've been going almost every year. I meet up with a lot of the people in the blackjack industry. This is like this is kind of like the bet bash for the blackjack world.
So
Um,
is it a competition or is it
so
a
there is a
party
competition.
or
It's a party and a competition, and now it's also a charity. And
Gotcha.
so, and there's also the Blackjack Hall of Fame that a bunch of people that he started off with it, started on this, and originally it was really a great way of like networking, and you'd get information from other card counters. Like there used to be somebody that had access to the Griffin Investigations book, and he would bring out the sheets, and you could go through and like see, your pictures and your the alerts that were about you and your team. People would like trade casino chips, like, oh, I'm going to this casino. Do you have any of these chips? I got these chips. You trade back and forth, and you'd like talk about like what are good casinos, what are some tactics that people may or may not, that you might want to learn about. Yeah, it's a great event, and I look forward to it every year. And this year they decided to move it to the back-to-back with Bet Bash because there's a lot of crossover with some of the people that attend Bet Bash, who are big sports bettors, are also blackjack players, or they have been in the past.
have you ever won the competition?
I haven't. I've been to the final table a couple times.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That's how I actually heard about it because I think on Game with an Edge they brought up the fact that they moved it so it would be in conjunction with Bet Bash, and I was just like, "Well, tell me more."
Yeah, and Richard Munchkin was who actually is like one of the main organizers of it this year and the last several years. Also went to Bet Bash.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I wish I would have got to meet him.
So what ended your time on the MIT Blackjack team?
I started to get kicked out of a lot of different places, and I just felt like, you know what, it's not really worth that much of my time anymore. And poker was taking off, so I was playing more poker, and I didn't really want to get kicked out of the casinos that I played poker at. Like I didn't want to get kicked out of Caesars casinos and then have to like beg my way back in to play the World Series of Poker.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Now that I live here and I have kids, I don't really want to go and try to like grind out some small amount of EV and then get kicked out of the casinos. And then, my kid wants to go to a movie at the Red Rock or something. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't go. Can't take you to the movie theater because I'm getting kicked out, So I tend not to, I don't really play too much. Occasionally I have some friends. I bet Bash there was somebody that wanted to play some blackjack, and I just counted for them. And I said, like, oh, really not very long time. Don't tell them at Circa.
All right, so let's
No, it was like 15 minutes. They didn't make any work.
Right.
Derek didn't notice.
Derek's cool. We talked to him. Don't worry about it. All right. Before we wrap things up here, Andy, we met at Speed Networking during Bet Bash. However, like this interview is entirely focused on the blackjack side of your thing. We could talk to you for this exact amount of time if we were to focus on the poker side of your life. But what were you doing at Bet Bash?
Yeah, so I spent about half my time working on sports betting for a company, and I can't really go into too many of the specifics. I think we talked a little bit there, but I can't go into too many specifics right now. But maybe when I can in the future, hopefully near future, if you guys want to have me back on, I can be able to talk much more about that.
So what you're saying is something may be discussable soon.
Yeah,
exactly. Saying there's a chance.
We will accept that answer as a tease for upcoming information coming out of Andy Bloch.
What a tease.
That's a great tease. Do you consider yourself a professional sports bettor, or do you yourself sports bet a decent amount?
I sports bet a little bit, but it's much more casual. So often I'm part of a group that like bets on the NCAA, March Madness, and some NFL fantasy leagues and stuff like that. I do have a few teams in the Survivor.
Okay.
Are you advantage betting with any of this? Like, are you out there with an edge operating right now?
I mean, the plan is to have an edge, yes. Still on this stuff for myself, but I'm not. It's not my. I wouldn't call it my job.
Okay.
Right. Okay. I just like a lot of people, like you have a regular job. My regular job happens to be this sports betting analysis stuff for half of my regular job, and then I do some of the patent work. So if anybody needs some patent help, I can write your patent pretty quickly, probably. And the other things, but I also It's really hard. They're really generous, I think, at Circa to have this the Survivor thing with no juice.
Right.
And always going to be, as long as you don't forget to put your picks in. Like I was listening to Fezzik a couple weeks ago, right? And he's like, basically, if you don't forget to put your picks in, there are people that do. So you're kind of like have a little bit of an edge, as long as you don't do really stupid things.
Yeah.
How many entries do you have?
I only have 4 entries. I didn't want to like go too crazy on my own, but and then if I do go pretty deep, I have some friends that I might like trade some action with.
And you have 4 entries as of week 2?
I just have 3.
Oh, do you have a Cincinnati?
Yeah, I wasn't going to pick Cincinnati, and then I was like, oh, maybe I'll hedge myself. But you know what? I'm so I'd rather Cincinnati lose.
Yeah.
And raise the expectation of the other 3 entries by that amount, because I only had them once.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yep.
Well, listen, Andy, I hope we get to share the prize with you this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have 1 entry.
Yeah.
Between the 2 of us and other partners.
Yeah, we brought in another personality for the Open for this show, and we did a whole breakdown of our week 1 Survivor. So if you get a chance to listen to that, you'll know
there you go.
where we're at. Go Seahawks.
Go Seahawks.
Go Seahawks. All right, Andy, before we let you go, last question, just because I'm curious. Your thoughts on the movie 21? How accurate? Is it worth my watch? What do we think here?
So at first, going into it, I thought I'd hate it, that they would just totally destroy the whole ethos of the MIT Blackjack team. But after watching it, I was like, in some of the scenes, like kind of really captured what it was like as a team to like play and beat the casino. And there's a scene where the main character walks out of a casino and it's like, he's been playing all night and he walks out like a lot of people do that have lost all their money to the casino, come out and it's like the sun is shining in his eyes. And then he takes a few steps and he has this like big grin because he just knows that he just crushed the casino. And that was really kind of like what it was like. And there were a lot of scenes like that. And the idea of like the team kind of getting back together at the end, that kind of happened. We all got back together for 2000 and just to beat the casino like one last time as one team.
Very cool.
So I like that aspect to it. We didn't make as much money as fast as they portrayed the movie. It took years to make that much money.
Yeah, fair enough.
The only way I can relate to any of that, I do relate to walking out of a casino and going, oh my gosh, it's daytime. But I've never once thought to myself, I just crushed the casino in that situation. Yeah. That's what makes us different, Andy. Thank you so much for your time today. Your story is fascinating. Your life is quite the journey. I hope we get an opportunity to talk more and maybe have you on again sometime.
Thanks a lot.
Before we let you go, just to let everyone know, you can find Andy Bloch on the Twitters at Andy_Bloch. That's Bloch with an H. He has a website as well, andybloch.com. Check it out. Thank you very much, Andy. Have a great rest of your week.
Thank you.
All right, Juice, what'd you think of the interview with Andy?
Wow, that man has had an interesting life.
We sometimes think we're cool.
Oh my God.
And then we realize.
Yeah. Obviously, super smart dude. I got a feeling like grinding out card counting is probably not in my future.
This is going to be one of the longer interviews we edit, and we didn't even get to like half of his life. Isn't that incredible?
Yeah. It's neat. And I loved how he talked about specifically like the 21 movie. And getting the firsthand account of the MIT Blackjack team was absolutely fascinating.
In an alternate world, I could absolutely do what he did, I believe.
Yeah, you think so? Yeah.
Where I'm single and in my 20s and not attached to a life-specific building thing. I don't know. What am I supposed to say there? Like, I genuinely believe that you put either one of us in a different scenario with access to that sort of thing in our 20s.
Yeah.
And we would have been all in.
Yeah. Maybe.
But not, at age 40.
Right.
Like Andy can't do it at age with kids now.
Right. He might not be able to go see the movie.
Yeah. So great interview. I thought more than what I learned about the fact that I'm never going to be a professional blackjack player
Yeah.
is just how interesting it is for those who go down that path.
Absolutely. I hope to someday get to meet Andy in person, perhaps next year at Bet Bash. I don't think we're ever going to get invited to Blackjack Ball, though.
No, that one's not in our cards. Maybe if they need some media coverage.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
We can do a Good JuJu
Right. So,
live from
totally.
that. Hey, Max Rubin, if you're listening to the show,
Right. Hit us up.
Spanky did this cool thing at Bet Bash this year where he had live podcasts throughout the event.
Yeah.
Maybe Max, you want to consider having us
Right.
next year. We'll consider it. So yeah, awesome. Can't wait to go watch 21.
Yeah. I mean, I like Blackjack again, but I'm not going to try to
No, I'm not going to go that way.
play for hours.
But I am going to go watch 21 this
Yeah.
week.
Good.
Yeah.
Let me know what you think.
Have a great rest of your week, folks. We'll talk again in 2 weeks.
Good JuJu to your bets.
Bye.
Did you watch the game?
Yes, we watch every play.
I did not watch a snap. I knew I couldn't handle it.
Oh,
I just heard about it later.
Yeah. That it was
Even at
so-
halftime
it
when
was
they were down,
gross.
I wasn't worried.
I wasn't worried ever because it was just like, well, if we lose, it's over. We don't have to do this again.
That's not why I wasn't worried. I wasn't worried because I was watching Bo Nix play quarterback, and it wasn't going to
Right.
happen. He wasn't going to win that game.
Right.
I heard his A dot was quite low, like historically low,
I mean,
throwing a bunch of dump offs.
Yeah.
dude, any throw he made down the field looked much more likely to go to a Seahawk than a Bronco. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding.
They dropped multiple interceptions.
Whenever he had the ball on offense, I was like, well, this is probably good for us.
So we're not taking Denver this week in Survivor.
They were looking more like a team we'll pick on all year than it does.
Pick the fade. Yeah.
But the thing
that's
is like, I don't know how a rookie quarterback does. We're going to get into this, actually, because I want to talk about the
yeah. So we shouldn't be talking about this yet. If
Yeah,
this is
right.
Part of the discussion.
I hit record, so we're
Oh, okay. Cool.
so anything that
I
we
would have had my
capture
game
that's
face on a little bit
cool,
more here.
I'll capture.
Yeah.
No one cares.
No, we're
about
gonna
our faces.
we're gonna start over. We're gonna start over.
Okay.
No, we're not.
Oh no,
Well,
we're not.
we are. We're gonna get
Yeah,
it.
you're gonna say something.
All right, I got a full list here. All right.